Welcome to the SoulScape show with your host and intuitive multidimensional channel and soul healer, Gabrielle Spencer. You can find all SoulScape shows and free gifts from our special guests at soulscape.tv. This is season 5. We are thrilled to have with us Louise Matson. Louise is an intuitive conscious channel. She's a conduit for energy healing. She's a way shower and spiritual mentor and guide. She channels source energy, sharing the messages through her Source Speaks blog posts, channels healing journeys and healing work. Join us as we speak about shifting consciousness, what we can do right now at this current time. Hello and welcome, everybody. I love and appreciate that you're all here, no matter what time it is for you around the world. Your energy is precious and it is needed, wanted, and we love that you're here to share it with us. Together, this is my big thing this year for the SoulScape show. It is that we are silent no more. We stand for God, which is us. We are the essence of God. And that means that we come together and unite our light as that essence. And in that, we empower not only ourselves, but the entire grid of light that is here to help this earth transform itself to a higher vibration, including all of us who live here. People, inanimate objects, everything must raise its vibration in order to come with us, right? Whatever the good stuff is, that's what we want to bring along. So I welcome you all. My name is Gabrielle Spencer, and I'm very excited you're here. And most importantly, I want to welcome Louise Matson, all the way from the United Kingdom in the middle of the night here to talk to you. So thank you for coming, Louise. Welcome. And I appreciate you. And just to give everybody a brief synopsis of Louise, she is a conscious channel. And that means that as she speaks to us, there will be information that comes through, but also, most importantly, the frequencies of what is being provided, not just in the words. And this is where we really become conscious. And she is here tonight to talk about shifting consciousness, because this is where we really start to dig into what's really going on, which is never what it is that we see, right? Or what we perceive. That is not what is going on. That is just subterfuge. So with that, welcome and thank you for sharing about yourself. If you'll just say hey to everybody and whatever comes through.
So yes, hello everybody. It's lovely to join you. It is very early in the morning here in the UK, but I feel completely and truly blessed to be sharing space with you. And as I always do, I've opened up as a channel. So whatever comes through, I never know quite what it's going to be. It will be divinely guided and inspired, because my intention is always to bring the perfect messages and guidance to the perfect audience at the perfect time for them. And it really is all about shifting our consciousness level and being the gateway to unlock that inner knowing within each and every one of you, who you truly are. So my journey was coming in, knowing who we were, who we all are, and realizing very early on at a very young age that I was the only one who was actually in this awareness.
You're the only one who had that clue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was freaking my family out to the point where I felt the need to make the choice to shut everything down, to be safe, to fit in, to be loved by my family, which in all honesty is what many, many, many of us have done, whether that has been on a conscious level or a subconscious level. And so I was, as a child, in a world where all consciousness, I was aware of all consciousness existing as I did. And I would commune with trees, and I would commune with dragons, and I would see the magic and wonder that truly exists in the world. But as I say, I chose to shut that down, lock that all away just to fit in and speak the language that everybody else was speaking, to not put my head above the parapet, as it were, to keep myself safe. And that's actually been the program that many people have experienced on this planet throughout the lifetimes that we've lived, as well as the times where we have stuck our head above the parapet and it has not ended well for us. And so we have these programs within our cellular memory, our DNA, our Akashic record, that have been the roadblocks to this awakening, which is why this is such a special time for the whole of consciousness, the global consciousness, as well as humanity, where the light is so bright and without filters that now is the time for us to discard all of that cellular memory, to lay all of those old wounds aside and really come into our own and reconnect with the energies that we were able to connect with as our young selves coming into existence in this physical landscape. So I've been a conscious channel my whole life. I've been an energy healer, a conduit for energy healing my whole life. And although I consciously shut it down, you never really do. Spirit has spoken to me throughout my life and guided me and protected me and blessed me with various opportunities. And, you know, some of which I took, some of which I didn't, but that's my perfect journey. And again, you know, that understanding that everything is perfect and in perfect timing, and there is no such thing as judgment of our journeys. We've all led the perfect path for us to be here in this now moment, to be ready for what is to unfold beautifully in front of us and around us and within us.
That is so true, but can be very hard to accept as humans. And I believe, I've always felt like that's our biggest struggle, is the concepts that sound great, but actually being able to embody them here as human and living with it every day. And I feel like that's the biggest struggle. So how do you help people overcome that and to truly embody these things?
One, by being a role model, and I think that's really what we all came here to do. It's through each of our own inner work that we then connect with the divine harmonic within each of us, and therefore radiate that out just through being, just through radiating our light and people experiencing our energy, whether that's face to face in a live setting, in a supermarket as you're waiting in a queue, or on a virtual summit like this. But the other aspect is to actually work with people on a one-to-one or in groups or whatever, to bring the tools, to share the experiences, and also to bring the energies through. Because again, everything, when we open up and we allow ourselves to fully open up and embrace the fact that we are, each and every one of us, clear and open channels, when we allow ourselves to be, then the energy is allowed to flow through us. And that is what is unlocking people's energetic within themselves to then fully embody, or not, because we all have free will choice, to fully embody the wholeness of who we are. So, you know, during a session, it may be that the messages and guidance with the further energetics come through, and that is what gives people the aha moments, or is the key in the lock for them. Or it may be the energy work that comes through that actually, you know, those higher aspects of themselves who are here at this time to be their healing team come through and actually work within their own light body or energetic matrix to shift some things, recalibrate, you know, restructure, straighten up, or reactivate their light bodies so that they can actually feel safe. Because I think that's the biggest thing. It's that feeling of safety that we need from a human perspective to actually step into our wholeness, because our higher self, it's like, well, that it already knows who we are and is fine. There are no good, bad, right, wrongs with the highest aspect of ourself. It's the lowest aspect of ourself that we need to get on board with this process.
Yes, it is. All right. So one of the great things I really want us to talk about, because we haven't ever talked about it on my show, but it is something that I speak about a lot with private clients. And I thought, this is fantastic, because I think this is a huge issue, again, for that human aspect of ourselves. And it is death, is understanding the expanded consciousness about death. So I'd love if you'd share about it, because I think that death holds a lot of heavy energy with it. And when you see it in a more expanded way, it truly helps. So if you would explain your understanding of death, that would be fantastic. I'm going to mute myself for just a second.
Okay.
Go ahead. Tell us about death.
Okay. Well, death is an illusion. Death is an illusion, just like separation from source is an illusion. But it is the big elephant in the room, and it's all connected in with our understanding of ourselves as the personality. So early on in the lockdown this year, because 2020 it's really massively been around us lifting the veil on what death truly is. It's been there up in our face, having death counts on the television day in, day out with the COVID. It's been something that as a human race in the Western world in particular, we've shied away from, we've not wanted to interact with or even discuss. It's something that you don't share with your children. I wasn't allowed to go to my grandparents' funerals. Death just wasn't talked about. And so it's this big, scary thing in Western society. But actually, the death rebirth cycle, it's part of life. The concept that every 7 years, every single one of your cells change in your physical form, that is death and rebirth. As we go through the various transitions in life from childhood to adulthood, that is death and rebirth. We are constantly rebirthing ourselves anew. And so we're constantly going through these deaths. When we go from being a single person to being a parent, it's the death of the individual and becoming the nurturer, the carer, and the provider. But we don't see that because we are so scared of the whole concept of dying. And all that is really tied into this personality self-construct that many people on the planet have fallen into. I mean, I deliberately and consciously shut my knowingness as myself, as all that I am, down to embody that construct, because that's where everyone else was at. But a lot of the people don't even remember doing that. They don't remember themselves as being multidimensional beings. And all they see themselves as is this physical body, the roles that they play, the identities that they associate themselves with. And so when your whole identity spectrum is attached to that personality, then you become fearful of it ending. You become fearful. You become very attached to these things. You become very attached to your physical body, and any changes within it then are seen as negative. So as you may grow older, or if you become infirm or something, it becomes a negative experience as opposed to just an experience and something new to embody and embrace. So the other aspect of the personality self-construct, and this was shared with me through lots of channeling at the early stages of lockdown, was that the personality self considers time to be linear, and it considered us to be here for a finite amount of time. So, we're born, we live, and then we die. And it's all part of the life process. And so when you're attached to that concept, then death is something to be avoided. It's something to be pushed back, as far and as for as long as we can. And therefore, any representation of death is feared. And in doing so, we're judging it. We create judgments around death being good or bad, and all death really is change. And the funny thing is that change is the only constant that we have in this physical world. And we see the cycles in the seasons, and we see the cycles throughout our own lives time and time again. So death is an illusion insofar as everything is energy. Energy cannot be made or unmade. It just changes form. So when you allow yourself to detach your soul identity to this personality and embrace yourself as the multidimensional creator beings that we really are, embrace ourselves as source, as all aspects of ourself, then we understand that actually death as a thing doesn't really exist in the way that we perceive it to be. We are eternal. We change form. We may not always be in this physical body, and this physical body may not always look the way it does. But that's just something, that's a new experience to embrace. And one of the things that I was really blessed with, I've had many near-death experiences in my lifetime alone. And there's actually been many times in my life where I would have welcomed death, because actually living I found to be much harder. And because I did know that, ultimately it wasn't the end, as it were. I wasn't afraid of it. I wasn't afraid of it happening. But I was blessed about 5 years ago with the deaths of both of my parents. And as a therapist in hospitals, I have been present when other people have passed. And the experience when you are physically in the room with somebody is really quite profound. So I experienced a number of people's passing, physically being connected to them, and feeling that, the essence of who they were had just transitioned, had just lifted from the physical form and was now no longer attached to it. But not that it just didn't exist anymore. It still existed, but just in a different way. And I felt that and experienced that really profoundly with my mum, who appeared to me 2 years before she actually passed and said, "I'm off." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, well, I better get across and see you." Rushed over, nothing. 2 years later, and a few visits later, with her saying, "Right, I'm off." And I'm like, "Yeah, you've said that one before." I'm going to come and visit you in a couple of weeks. So I'll see if you're still around then. And then when she did actually pass, I wasn't with her. But I couldn't get to sleep because I knew something was going to happen. And about half an hour later, I felt this incredible sense of loss come up through me, followed immediately by this immense sensation of bliss. And there was this freedom. It was like shackles being lifted off. And so I feel truly blessed to have experienced that transition from an energetic perspective of someone actually leaving this physical form, and all of the constraints and all of the strings that attach us to it, and feel that immense bliss of returning into a far more subtle representation of themselves, returning back into an energetic vibrational aspect of being, which was so freeing. It was just unbelievably beautiful experience to energetically experience and witness at the same time. So that is my understanding of death, and it really is nothing to be afraid of. And what really came through was when we allow ourselves to disconnect from this illusion of death as the end, the complete end, then we actually free ourselves to live life fully. Because actually, whilst we're afraid of death and we're trying to do everything to avoid it, all we're doing is constricting our experience of life into these ever decreasing boxes where we don't want to risk anything, and therefore we don't follow the clarion call of our heart. We don't follow the soul pull calling us forward to do what is in alignment to our divine purpose, the reason that we came into physical incarnation in the first place, because we don't want to take any risks. And everything, our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors are all dictated by this avoidance of something that at the end of the day is
going to happen.
Yeah, it's happening all around us all the time anyway, within ourselves. And the fact that we believe it to be this finite thing is an illusion.
And I think even if people say to you, oh no, I know that, there's still belief energy in there, that there's still fear about it because they don't have the freedom. And I know what you're saying because I understand it the same way, that it's a freedom actually, and it is honestly a lot easier for that consciousness to raise their vibration, and even for those of us here to help raise their vibration when they've crossed over. I just the other day, this is why it really hit me strongly, like when you wrote that for your talk, because I thought, this is something really, really important. Because as we also mourn people who have left us here, and we know they're on the other side and we can still talk to them and stuff, it isn't any of that really is that important. What really matters is that that person's consciousness has an opportunity, and that is how I understand it now. Like, this is a huge opportunity, because think of this. You are conscious and you are here, and you can assist them the most by praying for them, by connecting with their highest consciousness, doing energy work to help them to rid themselves of karma, to let go of beliefs. And I have to tell you, it is so much easier to get a consciousness to let go of beliefs when they're on the other side than when they are here. Okay? This is when you want to help rid your loved ones of beliefs and programs and fears, because, buddy, it comes off like butter when they are over on the other side. And if you don't know how to do it, you get with a conscious channel like Louise or myself, because we can help you do this. It is amazing how helpful this is for them, so that they can move to that higher vibration. And then whatever they're doing next, they're not at the vibration they were when they left you, even if it was a great one. Well, why not help boost them even more? So the other day I was working with a longtime client. She had called me because her sister passed, and her sister was in her 40s. And so she told me, Gabrielle, something is wrong. I know that there's a problem, and I know that you can help me. I said, okay. So we did a session for her, and absolutely, her sister was stuck in a really dark aspect, and it was described to me as she was drowning in her own tears of sorrow, which is, wow, that's pretty heavy, right? Some heavy stuff. But in an hour, we're able to reconcile the issues that caused her to be in this pool of tears. And we're able to shift her. That was the end of our session. A week later, my client called me back, and she goes, she was crying, but a happy crying. She said, oh my God, Gabrielle, I keep checking on her. She is okay. She keeps telling me I'm okay, and I am working now on my own evolution. Keep praying for me. And it was just so freeing for her sister, and the sister who lives here, and for her. But this is the beauty and the gift, that we have this connection and then they can help us as well. But that this is the greatest service. And when people pass over, instead of being sad, how can we help? That's what we should be focused on. This is their opportunity to shed so much crap so they don't have to reincarnate with it, either here or somewhere else, right? And that's what you're talking about, is this connection, this ability to move consciousness with greater effect, right? Because we're not here recreating the same problems over and over, because that's part of that human density piece that happens, right? So I think it's excellent that you brought this up, because people are walking around in fear, but actually so many people, I know, you all know in our audience, so many people have taken this opportunity to exit. And while that's true, it's also an opening for them. It's an opportunity. Everybody, you don't have to take every death door presented to you. Like you said, you had many death experiences. I've had two myself, actually, in my 18th year of life, which is kind of interesting. And there's always interesting stories about how we were saved and came through it. And what happens is we all know, if we're still here, there's a reason, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, right. And so then that's your calling. Like, what is it that you're meant to lead? Because all of us are old souls, and we're here as commanders of light, which means that you're able to fully embody it and live it and be that here on earth. That's our job. That's our mission. So when all of us talk about what's your soul purpose, that's it. I mean, you're allowed to do whatever you want, right? As long as you're doing that as well. It's a fun job. Actually, I think when I finally quit asking about, well, what's going to fill me up and what's my soul purpose? And I really started to embody that. My God, that was freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, again, it's the personality self-construct that wants to understand everything. You know, your highest aspect of self already knows. Right. You know, you have all the answers within you. There is nothing outside of yourself. All of the answers are within. It's just allowing yourself to connect with that. But the personality self will want to understand everything. It will want to have a reason for everything, which is why, you know, we can have a spiritual ego just as much as a real lower self ego. Because it gets so tangled up in the, what is my purpose? What is my mission? What am I here to do? Well, you're here to embody your highest aspect of self. You're here to bring heaven on earth. You're here to embody your source self, your God self within this physical form. And that's a process, and that's going to take time. And it may not happen in each of our lifetimes, because this physical form has to raise its own frequency to be able to contain that amount of light.
Yeah.
You know,
that'll burn me out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there has to go through this process. Now, I can't say how long or short that's going to take, because time isn't linear. And it really literally could happen overnight if we truly were connected to that belief that that was possible. The only reason that things aren't possible is because we believe they're not possible. We've been taught, we've learned through the education system, through our parents and through our previous lifetime experiences, that things are limited. These are the boxes that you can exist in, and this is what's possible. But when you allow yourself the freedom of stepping beyond that and stepping into myself as my Christed self, myself as my angelic self, myself as whatever layer of, you know, whatever dimension you want to connect into that is you, then anything is possible and everything is possible. And we literally can shift in a moment. It's us that get in our own way. And it's all of those belief systems, all of that cellular memory, that baggage that we've brought through along with us from other lifetimes, but then also that we've also accumulated in this. You know, you look around any one person's house and there's probably a load of stuff in there that they have no idea that it's even there. And that's your house.
Not in my house, Louise. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just looking at some now. I'm like, oh, I forgot I had that. But
That's great. You know how long you've lived in a house by how much stuff you have.
exactly. But the other thing that I also knew throughout my life was my external environment reflected my internal landscape, directly reflected it. So the more clutter I had in my house, the more cluttered my energy field was. So I would literally go through these purges throughout my life where it'd be like, if I haven't used you in 6 months, I don't need you. And I would give it to charity shops, or I would, give it away to people. And that was so freeing to actually let go. And so the process of shifting consciousness is literally a process of letting go of all of the attachments that we've built up. And that literally can start with decluttering your house, your external landscape, clearing out your wardrobe, or, just emptying some of your cupboards and making space for more light, because that's what we're doing. That's what the inner work of shifting beliefs and clearing attachments and, letting go of relationships that aren't working anymore and all of that kind of thing. It's basically making space so that you can fill it with more of your own light. Yes. And that then raises your vibration, raises your consciousness level, and you're able then to connect into higher aspects of yourself more easily, because you're not carrying all this dense baggage with you. Right. Within your energetic field. I mean, we've just crossing a threshold at the minute with the 1111 gateway, and we're in this portal window between 1111 and 2112, and an immense amount of light's going to come in 2112. And so for me, Spirit's been saying, clear out your baggage. What's in your backpack? What are you still holding on to that really isn't serving you any longer? Because there's an opportunity coming for us to really shift consciousness on a mass scale and a massive scale for us as individuals. But, it's about allowing ourselves to do the work of actually emptying your backpack, clearing out everything that no longer serves you, and getting okay with all aspects of who you are.
What does that mean exactly?
What is the getting okay with all aspects of yourself? Complete and radical self-honesty, radical self-acceptance, and radical self-love. It's, there are no good, bad, right, wrong aspects to you. You are all that you are. And those aspects that we are too afraid to go near, that we are fearful of encountering or allowing to be expressed because we've either been taught that it's not right, or it's not polite to be this way, or if you're a woman you can't behave in a certain way, or if you're a man you can't cry, all of those things that for whatever reason we've pocketed away, buried deep within ourselves, and we won't even go near them. Those aspects of ourselves that we certainly won't show anybody else, but sometimes we even hide from ourselves. Yep. All of those aspects, shining the light of love on them all, bringing them all to the table. And that's what I say, Spirit is saying, bring death to the table, invite it to sit at your table as a good friend. Mm-hmm. Invite your anger, invite your fear, invite your rage, invite your envy, invite your grief. Invite your love, invite your joy, invite all aspects of yourself to the table. Own them all. They're part of you. They're beautiful. You are beautiful in your rage and anger. You are beautiful in your grief. You are beautiful in all experiences that you undergo in this life experience. We all put our hand up and said, I'm in. We chose to incarnate. This isn't.
I swear to God, we say this now. I mean, so much more than we ever did, right, Louise? It's like we have to keep saying it, because it's like, you know what, guys? We really did. We came here for the show. I keep calling us, we are the power generators. We are in human form to be connected to the cosmic aspects as well, who are also assisting. Okay, so we're the ground troops, we're the boots on the ground. It is so important for us to get out of so much of our limiting thoughts about what is happening. I have I haven't posted it yet. I will post it, I promise everybody. But yes, somebody wrote in, my voice is off. Absolutely it is. I am recovering from a sinus infection, and this is actually the best it's been in days. So it's all good. I've been sitting under my medical grade infrared lamp for 2 days straight. So I'm coming along, I'm getting there. But GabrielleSpencer.com/unite, UNITE. And there's our free 144,000 Unite in the Light prayer vigil. MP3s are out there, and the live one is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, which puts people in the UK at like 2 in the morning. But last Friday, we had people from England and Argentina, I think. We had people from all parts of the world that still got up to do it because of just what you said. It's showtime. Ready or not, we are boots on the ground and we must show up, but we cannot do it on our own. It is meant for us to do it together, right? And this is so important for all of us to realize that this is the fun part if we make it fun, right? If we have each other and we talk about it, and if it scares you, that's okay. And if you need comfort, that's okay. And if you feel really strong one day, great. And when we add all of us together, then we don't have to be so affected, and we can help others to shift. And then we can stop reminding ourselves that we chose this, because I know that all of us are sitting here saying the same thing over and over. I hear it so often because it's like a bit of a jolt. I think for me, I feel like it's because, we've been preparing for so long, right? And it's almost like we're having a little bit of a slow start, because it's almost like, oh, wait, what? Do you know what I'm saying, Louise?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't know anybody everybody knew 2020 was going to be big, but nobody knew exactly what it was going to look like. And I remember when it came in, I was like, oh, so that's what it's going to be.
I'm gonna tell you, somebody sent me a meme, and it was this little girl, and she had this really, yuck face on. She's like, "You mean I stayed up to midnight for this?" And I was like, yes, exactly. It wasn't exactly exactly how I think any of us thought it was going to go. So we are, but we're on it together, and this is what excites me. Like, it fills my heart. I just feel like this is such an empowering time, and it's so exciting, because if nothing else, it's making us band together, because we know what to do. We've been in this situation before, and now it's just time to get out of our own way. And that was the reason I was talking about the unity prayer, because one of the channelings I did with my inner group the other day that I haven't posted out there yet, that was the message that was channeled, which is, we don't need to be in charge. This is the hard part for humans, right? We like to think that we know who we should be rooting for, what should happen, what shouldn't happen, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, what we want, what we didn't want. And we have really strong emotions about it. And it came through that while we understand that that's the human aspect, as these beings of higher vibrational light, we are here. Our mission is to be the light. That's our mission. That's it. The light is working through us just like Reiki energy, you all know it, right? We were taught very early on, for me more than 20 years ago, it has its own consciousness. So be aware that is the same. The light, the highest vibrational light of God, has its own consciousness and knows exactly what needs to occur here. And when you make peace with that, you will have peace with all of it, because this is our role. It is not to determine what the outcome looks like. That is not what we're here for. We're here because we agreed to be. And we said, yep, I'm signing up for boots on the ground. Now, some days I know we want to take that back, right, Louise? I know for me, there are some days I'm like, really? I need a vacation. When do I get one?
Absolutely. But I mean, the whole thing about how do we shift consciousness is not to run away from those moments. I mean, at the beginning of lockdown, I had a massive human moment. I was really triggered by the manipulation and the control that I was seeing and experiencing and sensing.
Right.
And the thing is not to run away from that, not to judge that. You know, we are still shifting. We are shifting. For as long as we're in this physical form, we're still connected in some way to the lowest vibrational aspect of who we are. The third dimension, fourth dimension, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's just words, but we're connected to that. And so it's honor that. Okay, this is where I'm at. In this moment, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling really triggered. So I allowed those emotions to flow. I didn't suppress them. I didn't judge them. I took myself out into the countryside. I got myself connected to a tree and I just let it rip. I let it go. I was angry. I was crying. I felt completely disempowered. I felt completely hopeless because that was my truth in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then once all of that energy had been expressed, because that's all it is, then I was able to come and bring the light in. Then I was able to fill myself up with the higher knowing of no judgment. You know, this is perfect. We're exactly where we're meant to be. What's happening is exactly what needs to happen. You know, if you think about the amount of people that there are on the planet and how many people connect into calls like this, it's a very small percentage of people who are awake enough to the knowing that there is something more than just being the personality self. The majority of people are fast asleep, if you like, and very much connected to that as their entire construct of identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so for them to kind of shift their perspective, because that's all this is, shifting consciousness is shifting your perspective from this is all I am, this is who I am, and this is what life is, to, oh, well, there's more than that. So exploring the more than that and what that more than that looks like and feels like. So all of these things that we're seeing unfolding, all of these things that we're experiencing, all of the different timeline narratives that are popping up of mandatory vaccines or, you know, mandatory testing or lockdowns or whatever it is that we're currently experiencing are all divinely instigated. And all the players are playing their parts perfectly to enable the shift in consciousness for those people who are really bought into, this is me, I am my body, I am the roles that I play, the fact that I have a car in the garage and a nice house is all that matters. You know, they're those people who are really tied into all of the rigid constructs of the third dimension, the structures, the financial systems, the education system, the health system, everything that they see as real in this world. It is for them to enable them to be able to shift perspective, for them to start questioning. Because it's when we question what we know to be real, that's when we start allowing ourselves to explore other possibilities. Because it's when you question that you're actually bringing in the possibility that there isn't just this answer. this isn't just it, that there may be something else. And you may not know what that something else is in that moment, but you're opening yourself to receiving the possibility that that something else exists. And then when you question more and more, you go further in, you open yourself further up. And each time you allow yourself to open up, you snip one of these little puppet strings that attach you to all of these beliefs that this is the only reality that exists. And you start widening your perspective of reality and widening your perspective and knowingness of yourself and who you truly are.
Very good. Do you want to take a call? Victoria has her hand up and has for a while.
Can do.
Can you unmute yourself, Victoria? She might not even be there anymore. Victoria, are you there? We'll give her a second. Let me check your, okay, somebody, they're sending us emojis. Somebody else had a question while we're waiting for Victoria to unmute herself. That had to do with recognizing consciousness on the other side. So Linda was asking my question, how do we recognize consciousness through the transition so we don't have to get back to Earth so quickly? What's your on that?
The thing is that we exist in many different states in each moment. So we exist as our third dimensional aspect of self. We exist as the fourth, fifth, and all the way up through to source self. So when you transition, when you step out of this physical incarnation, there is a shift. There is a time, there is an aspect that is still attached to the egoic construct. And that's how we can still connect in with, our loved ones as they've passed. But then there's the other aspect of them that knows themselves as all the other vibrational frequencies of their wholeness. And so, shifting consciousness so that we don't have to keep coming back. The more we're able to do in this lifetime to shift, the less, as it were, that we have to kind of cycle back into. Now, there is the issue that, karma stopped, that we're not here. We're no longer creating karma for ourselves. So in terms of, we are shifting as a collective into a whole different level of consciousness in an incarnated form, and that's what we're doing here. So it may be that in the future we don't actually have to cycle back in, because the whole of consciousness within the physical plane will have shifted. But to help with the transition, we can do it within our lifetime, but then those that are aware can do it for those that have transitioned. So I did a lot of work with my dad, as he was going through that process of dying. He had a terminal illness. And so, during the few months that we had, because his diagnosis was very close to his passing, we would have those discussions. We would start having those open discussions to allow him to start opening up his field to the possibility that there was more. So then when the process of transition physically actually came, I was there working energetically with him, enabling him to let go of a lot of the attachments and things that were holding him tied into the wounds of this lifetime and previous lifetimes, that he wasn't bringing that baggage out with him and then cycling back in, because everything that we experience goes into our cellular memory, whether you want to call that the Akashic record or the DNA, it doesn't really matter.
It can be filed in more than one place.
Yeah, it's like
the other problem.
Yeah, it's like energetic signatures that we bring through, and quite often I'm shown it as like automatic programs that we've brought through. It's like we've come in as a new computer and we've got this operating system, but we've got all this stuff already built into it, this software. It's a bit like Norton antivirus that you just can't get rid of because it just goes everywhere like an octopus.
It hides all over.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's, we do the work. We can do the work for those that have passed, because the other thing is as well, and this is I found really interesting, when we do the work on ourselves, we also clear our ancestral lines. So we're clearing all of those people that have gone before us, and we're clearing our descendants as well. So if you've got an energetic signature that has fed through the cycle from your matriarchal line or your patriarchal line, and this is often the case with things like curses and things like that, and vows, that you can actually, if you clear those, you clear them for everyone connected to that consciousness and that kind of soul group, as it were. So the work is important, whether we do it in this lifetime or we assist others by doing the work through their transitioning, working with their consciousness in the other dimensions that they exist within. But ultimately, they are also connected to all aspects of themselves. When we transition, we are far more open to returning to that complete understanding of ourselves as our entire aspect of self, all the way up to source self.
That's right. That's why it's such an opportunity versus a bad thing. I mean, I tell people I have a hard time anymore feeling sad about it, because I just am like, I'm so happy for that person. It's really, I mean, talk about people looking at you weird, right? Like, what? And you're like, no, really, I'm really excited for them. This is great. So I find that it is all about your perspective. I mean, that's a perfect example of perspective, right? I just think that as we all gain this higher level of consciousness and understanding, it will help everybody to transition easier. But also remember that these people have not left our unity. Okay, so I want you to address the 5D unity consciousness, because this plays right into it, which is why you wanted to talk about it, because it all goes together. I love cycles and circles as long as they're positive. There's a judgment for you. As long as they're high vibe, right? So if you would explain that next piece.
So, yeah, I mean, the thing is that the different dimensions, as I say, we exist in all of them at any given moment, because we are multidimensional beings. So there's an aspect of us that already exists in the 5th dimension, 6th, 7th, all the way.
Yes.
But
what cooler stuff somewhere else.
But what we're all doing as a collective, and the whole kind of thing about being here on Earth at this time, and why we stuck our hand up and went, yeah, I'm in, is because the Earth is shifting from the lower vibration of 3rd dimension, which was around 7 to 8 hertz in frequency, and is shifting her own frequency higher and higher. So, there is already a 5th dimensional template within the Earth plane, which we can connect into and do at times, in those bliss moments, in those joyful moments, in those moments where we're inspired by something and we take action in alignment with it, and it would just feel absolute joy. We're in that 5th dimension in those moments. 5th dimension, there is no judgment. Judgment only exists in the lower dimensions. 5th dimension is unity consciousness. It's us completely accepting and loving ourselves as a whole entity. There is no judgment. It is that understanding that everything is perfect and everything in perfect timing, and the ability to manifest in 5th dimension speeds up so much because all of the roadblocks that we put in our own way have gone. All of the resistance and the interference and the judgments of the lower frequencies, they've all gone. So 5th dimension is where we're all moving towards. And so the whole process of raising our vibration, and you see it with the Schumann resonance of the earth, it literally shifts into the 100 hertz bandwidths, and especially when groups of people come together to pray or to do light work, or, to come together as a collective in a raised consciousness state, it actually correlates to a shift and a peak in the Schumann resonance of the whole of the earth plane. So shifting from third dimension to fifth is letting go of all that baggage, letting go of all the attachments, letting go of all the belief systems and the concept that you are your thoughts and your emotions, and understanding and understanding yourself as so much more than that. Letting go of any judgment of what takes place and happens, and just connecting into the fact that everything is perfect and in perfect timing, and that there is a blessing in everything. And allowing yourself to really connect in with divine neutrality. It's that still point. And coming into fifth dimension is seeing yourself as connected to everything. We are all one, and we are all part of the all that is. We're an individuated divine spark of God. We're an individuated divine spark of the all that is. And so is everything. We are not special. Everything is special. We're all part of everything, and we're all connected. I am you and you are me. We're just merely reflections of each other. And it's that ability to see that spark and connect with that spark within everybody, and to love them for their divine uniqueness that brings us into this unity consciousness, where we know it's not from a cognitive perspective of I know this. It's a deep, innate knowing that you are all one, that you are one and the same. And there, judgment falls away. Judgment doesn't exist. It can't exist in unity consciousness. And the frequency is raised. And rather than, experiencing life from the perspective of fear and the lower vibrational energies that go along with that, blame and guilt and all of that, you're experiencing life from the frequency of love. But not love as we understand it in the third dimension, with all its attachments and all its conditions. Pure, unconditional divine love. Understanding yourself as divine love and light. That is what you are. You're just vibrating at a particular frequency that makes you look like this and makes you look like the way you look. But within that, connecting in with that true radiance of the divine light within, which is that divine spark, that essence of energy that is part of source. It's part of everything. And that you're connected regardless of whether it's to the building, to the plants, to the animals, to the minerals. You're connected to everything. And you're connected at a consciousness level, and therefore able to communicate. When we channel, we don't just channel our higher aspects of self in angelic form, or ascended master form, or things like that. We're channeling the consciousness of the planet. We're channeling the consciousness of the plants, the animals. They all have. We're all part of the same thing.
Right. One last question. People are asking all kinds of questions. One is we have a request to say a prayer for the dead. Excuse me. And somebody else just asked it. There are a couple of interesting questions. So, I'm aware of having an unusual curse on my family. What if I can't heal that in this lifetime? They're the last ones of the family here. And then Julie wants to know, is 1221 the beginning of the age of Aquarius?
I haven't been given that information directly from source. Some people are saying that it is because of the astrological transits. I think on the 2112, Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct, which I don't think happens and hasn't happened in Aquarius, and they're conjunct in Aquarius at 0 degrees Aquarius, and I don't think that's happened for hundreds of years. So you could say that we're moving into the age of Aquarius on that day, because Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct in Aquarius. Saturn is all to do with the kind of the structures and the constructs, and so, you know, when you look at that perspective, with Saturn moving into Aquarius, it's moving into a much more fluid, much more less solid, therefore less lower frequency versions of the structures and things like that. And so from a perspective of reality, yes, you could say that it is, but I haven't received that directly through source for me.
What does it mean if it is?
Well, I mean, you know, the whole kind of idea that we are creating new earth, that we are shifting, raising frequency, not of just of ourselves, but of reality. So that we're shifting into, it's a bit like the 100th monkey effect. So enough of us create a tipping point where enough people do the work and it automatically tips over into the whole of collective consciousness. So it's like, we call it the 100th monkey effect because it takes 100 monkeys to learn a certain thing, and then every single monkey, regardless of where they are in the world, knows how to do that thing. And that's, you know, that's the concept. So it's like, if enough people raise their frequency to hold fifth dimensional reality as their experience within this reality that we exist within, then it just automatically shifts the whole of collective consciousness. And so all of the baggage, as it were, of all of the old, you know, the fear-based constructs, the fear-based realities, the fear-based systems that we have, the corruption or whatever, you know, might be going on, cannot exist, because the global consciousness, the collective consciousness, is raised to the point where they would be resonating at a completely off frequency. And that's the other thing, you know, we may see a number of people transitioning during this period, because as we raise frequency and as the earth raises frequency, we cannot exist on being completely out of resonance with where we're at, which is why our lowest aspect of self is vibrating, and when we came in was vibrating at 3D, because the earth was vibrating at 3D. So we had to be in resonance to be able to exist on this planet. Now, as the earth shifts into 5D, anybody who's still wanting to remain in 3D, or anything that is still remaining in 3D, and I'm talking about, you know, the systems as well as, you know, the consciousness in terms of humanity, cannot remain there. It either has to raise its frequency or it's choosing to step out. And it is, on a way, a choice. It may not feel like a conscious choice, because it can happen in a number of ways. You know, we can have accidents, we can have illnesses, but from a soul level, it's a choice not to take that step across this threshold and up level and raise vibration into this new state of being. And it's okay. You know, there's no judgment on anybody's journey or where anybody's at in any given moment. You know, my father was the same. He chose not to do the work. You know, he had me as his daughter. I was telling him his whole life. I was there to assist him, and he chose not to do the work, and that was okay. And part of my journey was allowing that and being okay with it. You know, not trying to fix.
That's the hard part.
Oh yeah, it was huge, because the lessons get harder the closer the people are to you. When it's your most intimate family or your loved ones, then it's a real test for you to allow yourself to remain in this awareness of ourselves as soul consciousness, multidimensional consciousness, and go, okay, that's their journey and that's their perfect journey. And not step in and try and rescue and fix and change them. it's like respecting their perfect journey as you respect your own. And that is, it was a hard lesson, but it's there are so many blessings in it to really step back and honor people's paths and honor their choices, regardless of what their choices may look or feel like to you. Just stepping into that absolute honoring of where that soul is on their journey and acknowledging that, what, it is a perfect experience for them. Because sometimes people's souls make choices about things, not so much for the experience that they're going to have themselves, but for the learning and the up-leveling that it's going to enable in another.
Everything, it's amazing to me always when you can step back enough. For some reason, whenever I think about stepping back, I always think of it about like looking at things as if you were looking through a periscope, right? Because you're just an observer. And when you are in that energetic, it changes a lot of things. And so if you find yourself too in too deep, that would be the perspective you want. Is I just want to be the periscope. Just show it to me as if I'm just observing it. And it kind of makes it easier to allow it to sort itself the way it needs to. And then you can see or get that intuitive kick for, oh, now I need to go do whatever it is. And it may have nothing to do with that at all, but you would have missed it because you were focusing over here instead of on something else. Okay, I want to talk about your free gift, which is called Realign to Your True Potential. Would you like to share about it?
So yeah, there's I channel activations quite often, and two of them came through to be given as free gifts, and one is microcosm to macrocosm is what Spirit gave me. And it's basically a healing activation that enables you to connect with yourself at your most finite aspect of self, at the cellular level, really getting into myself as this body, my organs and everything, right down to the cellular level, the microcosm, and then allowing your awareness of yourself to expand out into all aspects of yourself, all the way up into your source self. So that is one of the activations. And then the next activation is navigating the shifting timelines. And we are going through the most amazing period of shifting timelines, multiple timelines, and all timelines are a possible choice points and outcomes. And like I say, they're just different possible narratives that you can hook into and attach into, or you can just lovingly step back and observe as they whiz by. And what Soul showed me is there's this golden thread, and that's the golden thread of our highest timeline. And it's like this activation is to enable you to connect in with that golden thread and to connect in with your highest timeline in each moment. And so rather than connecting into, as many people have been taught to do, grounding into the earth plane, where you're grounding into the lower vibrational earth plane quite often because you've not set the intention to do anything otherwise. And therefore you're connecting in with all these timelines as they're whizzing in and whizzing out, and it can be quite discombobulating. To connect into the diamond crystalline core of the earth, the highest vibrational, the fifth dimensional, if you like, aspect of the earth that maybe hasn't fully come into physicality yet, but exists. And so connecting your energy into that enables you to connect into something that isn't attached to these many timelines. So as they shift and flash by, you're not getting thrown off because you're not plugged into that one, and then all of a sudden that one's gone and you're like, oh right, okay, well that's not a reality anymore. Okay, I've got to plug into this one over here. So that's the activation for that. So the free gift is those two activations.
And everybody, you can find them at soulscape.tv/Louise, Louise. Okay. And that is up now. And tomorrow, this video will be up for you to listen again and to receive all of the love and light and the healing frequencies that have been shared tonight from Louise for all of us as we together move forward. I mean, it's go time. I think it's going to be my new sign off. It's go time. See, this is what happens when you live with a former Navy SEAL, is that this is boots on the ground, y'all. You military people know what that means. And it means that we're all here, and gosh, we can find the fun in it. And even in the shifting timelines. And, it's almost a sport now, Louise.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that. Something shifted. What was it? And it's actually kind of a game. So these are all fun, new age games you all can play with your friends. Oops, something happened. And there you are. That's how fast it's happening. It's kind of exciting, actually. Like I said, for many of us who started a long time ago, things just are moving at such a rapid pace, but we can do it. We're doing it. Anyway, so I want to thank you, Louise, for being here and sharing your love, light, and joy. You're a beautiful being. I appreciate you very much and all the work you're doing, and I hope to work with you again. Everybody, thank you for being here. You're awesome. I appreciate your love and light. See you all tomorrow. Good night. I'm going to